Hi and welcome to Darvanalee Design Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed and today we are going to be doing some quick little gifts for Mother's Day because that's just around the corner. So given the current situation that we're all at home isolated or we are in lockdown or something like that, it's going to be a little bit tricky to get out and about to get something for our mums. So I thought that I would put together a couple of videos over the next couple of weeks of things that you can use around the house or in your craft stash room and make some great little gifts from the heart for your mum. And today I'm going to show you two different ways to make these gorgeous key fobs. So let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to make these key fobs in two different styles. One using a particular sort of hardware, which is a crimping hardware, and the other one is with a swivel hook and a rivet. So you're going to need a few things. Of course, you're going to need your fabric for that, and this is a great scrap busting fabric. As you can see, I've got a piece of fabric here that's just got chunks out of it that I've used it for a quilt, and it's not really good for anything else, but I can get a couple of strips out of it. So you're going to need some of that. Alternatively, you can use just a fat quarter if that makes it nice and easy for you. So grab your fabric. The next thing you're going to need is some Deco Bond. It's by Pellin. And I believe the number is 908 for this one. It's a fusible, so one side is shiny and one side isn't. And you're going to need 2 strips of that, and the strips need to be 4 inches by 12 inches, and you can see here that I've already cut my fabric out. Okay, so just remember that they're 4 inches in width and 12 inches in length. You're going to need some wonder clips, you're going to need a rotary cutter, you're going to need a pair of thread snips, you're also going to need a tailor's awl and a quilting ruler, and you're going to need some hardware. So as I said, you're going to need, for the two different types, you're either going to need one of these, okay, which as you can see, it's got a couple of teeth in it and it crushes down. So it's a crimping style, or you're going to need a swivel hook, and this needs to be 1 inch. They're both 1 inch in size. This one's pretty standard, comes as a 1 inch size. These come in all different sizes. So you need to have this as 1 inch so the fabric can slip through that. And to finish that off, you're also going to need some rivets. And to set that, you're going to need a rivet setting tool, or you're going to need a press such as I've got, a tabletop press. Now, you might be wondering what this contraption is. Well, my husband has taken my crimping tool, so I've gone and robbed his tools and got this is a handheld clamp. But it does exactly the same as the crimping tool, and I'll insert a picture in here now of what the crimping tool actually looks like, and I will leave a link down below where you can get it. But unfortunately, my husband decided that he needed to use it for some things that over at the workshop, so and he forgot to bring it back for me, so I'm going to use this tool today. So if you don't have a crimping tool that I showed you in that picture, and you do have something like this, so some multi-grips, or this is just a large multi-grip device, they usually come with a smaller nose on them, and this one doesn't have any ridges on it. So most multi-grips have like ridges on it, so it clamps on. So if you do have something like that, just grab a piece of fabric, and then that way you can insert your crimp hardware into that, and then it won't mark it at all. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do is we're going to get all this stuff out of the way, and we're going to get started. So off camera, I have already cut my strips and fused my interfacing to the wrong side of the fabric, and you are going to do that to both strips if you're making both sorts. If not, you just do it whatever strip that they're both the same. It doesn't matter which style you do, they're both made the same at this point. Okay, so I'm going to start with the lobster clasp and the rivets and show you how to do that. So that's this one here. All right, so you're going to cut your strip of fabric 4 inches in width and 12 inches long. And then what you're going to do is you're going to head over to the ironing board, and you're going to fold that in half. Then you're going to open it up, and you're going to bring your raw edges into that crease. Okay, and then you're going to fold it over on itself. Okay, and you're going to do that with your iron, and if you've got a clapper, use your clapper because it helps set it in place. Now, if you don't have any of the Pellin, don't worry, you can actually make this with some fusible fleece, or you can not worry about putting any stabilizer in there if you don't want to. It'll make it a little bit flimsy. So you can see here the Pellin actually makes it quite stiff. But I would recommend putting at least a fusible fleece, or even maybe some thin wadding batting into that as well. Or you could use Shape Flex 101 or some sort of woven interfacing to go on there, just to give it some sort of stability. All right, so the next thing that we need to do, as I said, we are making this one here, so we've got to do things a little bit different. We're going to open that back up. Before we do that, we're going to slide our swivel hook on there, and then we're going to bring that to the middle, and we're going to open this back up. It's a little bit fiddly, okay, and we'll open up the other side, and then all you're going to do is you're going to bring those two short ends together. Then you're going to head over to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to pop off and do that, and then I'll come back and show you what I'll do next. Okay, so you can see there that I've stitched a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten, and you can finger press this, or you can hit it with your iron, or you can use a pressing tool if you've got one, but I'm going to press my seams open. Okay, and I've just finger pressed that, but you can just put it down on the table there, and you can just hit it with your hand press or your iron. Next thing you're going to do is we're going to refold that, okay, and it can be a little bit fiddly, so just be aware of that. Straighten it out, get that crease into the center, and then bring that in, and then the same on this one, making sure that your seam stays nice and flat. Okay, so that is it in place, and then you're just going to fold it on itself again. So as I said, it can be a little bit fiddly because you've got that hardware on there, but you need to have that hardware on there, otherwise it won't stay in. All right, so you can see there that we've created our little loop, and we've got this seam down here. So okay, so at this point what you're going to do is you're going to put a couple of wonder clips on there, and that's just going to hold it in place. And then starting at our seam, we are going to go to our sewing machine, and we're going to pop it underneath our needle, and we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch all the way around, just moving it through the sewing machine, removing your wonder clips as you're going, and sew all the way back around until we get back to our seam that we've got here where we started. Do a little back stitch, take it out, and then you're going to turn it around, and you're going to do exactly the same thing again. So I'm going to head off to the sewing machine. I'm going to do that, and I'll come back and show you what I've done. Okay, so you can see there that I've stitched down both sides. So just starting at that seam, and I've stitched all the way around, and I've stitched this one all the way around as well. You don't need to free up your free arm on your machine. You can do that without taking that off, and you just lay it in like this, and then you stitch this side, go all the way around, just turning it through the machine, take it out, and then turn it around, whoops, and go back the other way. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to get our lobster clasp, and we want to bring it up to that seam, and then we're going to get this bar here to sit on that seam, and then we're going to fold the seam over. So you can see there that you can't see any seam because it's hidden under here. All right, now just folding that down. Now this part is a little bit tricky, but it can be done. So basically all you're going to do is pop some wonder clips on there. And while holding that lobster clasp in place onto that seam that we've just got there, you're going to grab your tailor's awl, and you're going to sort of just eyeball it. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch up from that bar. You're just going to, and in between your two stitching points, you're going to find the middle, and you're just going to poke your tailor's awl through the center there. So you can see there, I'll just come out the other side, and that's going to make a hole. Now, the hole might not be big enough because we've got that interfacing on there. I just grab my little pointy thread snips, and I just push that through to clear the way. Just leaving them in there for a moment. I'm going to grab my hardware. You need to place these rivets in there, so you need a cap, and you need one with a stalk on it. So at this point, I've got the hole in both of them, so I can just remove the wonder clips from there now because it's held it in place. And what I like to do is I just go one side at a time. So I put through one side and then I find the other side and I pop that through. And you may have to just give it a little bit of a helping hand and pop your scissors in there and just open up that hole a little bit. Now you don't want to snip at it, you just want to poke it, because what will happen is if you snip at it, you run the risk of making the hole too big. So you can see there a little bit of fluff and stuff is getting in the way, so I'm just going to poke that through, and now that should go through nice and easy for me. There we go. And then all I'm going to do is pop the cap on. Okay, and now that hole is hidden underneath that cap. Then I'm going to grab, I've got a setting tool, which I don't actually have a small setting tool. I use this larger one here. So basically I just sit the cap in there, and then I put a little bit of my scrap fabric, wherever that went, over the top, and then I press it closed. So placing that into there, so you can see there I've just placed it in. Then I'll just pop the fabric over there, and I know that it's in place because it's not moving anywhere. And then I just push the lever down, and that's it. It's in place, and that's it. That's done. So you can set that aside. All right, move all that stuff out of the way, and the next one we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we've got our strip that's 4 inches by 12 inches long. We've ironed it in half, and then we've brought our stitches, our raw edges into the center, and then we are going to stitch down either side. Now we don't need to join this to make a circle, we're just going to go down each side of this one. Okay, and that is super quick and easy to do. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to do that, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so there you can see I've just stitched down either side using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Get that a bit closer for you. Maybe a little bit fatter than 1/8 of an inch, but it doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent. You're going to take off all your threads, get rid of those. Same as down the other end. And occasionally, sometimes you might have a little bit of fabric that just pops out. You can just snip that off. Okay. Get rid of all of that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your crimping tool, your piece of hardware. So you can see there that it's got little teeth in it and it's got a little hook on top. Now just be careful when you are crimping them that you don't crimp too hard near the top, because these are just welded on, and like any weld where it's attached onto it, you can actually crimp them off if you're not too careful. So just take care in doing that. They are solid and they don't break. I've never had one break on me, but just when you're crimping it, you just want to make sure that you're not too heavy-handed with it. Okay, so basically once you've cleaned up all of your threads, and I've just got one just there, and you've cleaned up your ends, what you're going to do is you're just going to bring it over on itself. I'm just looking for, yep, that's the way I want it to go. Okay, you know how sometimes your bobbin thread looks a little bit different, but mine is looking good today, so we just want to fold it over. Then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your piece of hardware, and you can see there that it's just sliding in there, and you want your fabric to go up to the end here. And basically all I do is I just give it a little bit of a squeeze with my finger, and you can see that that's not going to come off now. Okay, I can see that everything is encased in there, it's pushed up hard against it, and basically that just makes it nice and easy for me to now crimp it. If you're having trouble with this up here, just pop a couple of wonder clips on the end up, and that will hold it in place. Then all I do is I pop the fabric over, and as I said, this is not normally the crimping tool I use. I've showed you earlier. And all I do is I just come in and I just give it a gentle squeeze. I don't do it too hard because I don't want to crush it. And you can see there that that is now on there securely. That is not going to come off. And sometimes I will just, it might not crimp really well for you on the corner, so I'll just give that another little squeeze, nice and gentle. Way to improvise today using the hubby's tools. It was amazing. It was clean too, so I was pretty happy about that. And that's it. It's done. So now all you've got to do is put your little split ring on it, so we can set all that stuff away. And I just, to help me get these on, I just grab my tailor's awl, and in the groove I just open it up, and then I put my little split ring on, and that's it. It is done. It is that simple. So I hope you really enjoyed making these today with me, and you've got the two different styles now. So now you can go through your bag hardware or any other hardware that you've got. I'll leave some links down below where you can get all this hardware from. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really do hope that you enjoyed this quickie tutorial, and join me again next week for something else that we can make for Mum. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.